I was 6 years old when I first heard this story. The scene remained sharp in my memory. I stood on a rocky point with my grandfather, our fishing lines extending into the very patch of ocean where the great ship had been lost. Behind us, a tunnel stretched down into the rocks, carved out by fortune seekers, a timeless reminder of their attempts to claim her buried riches. As the waves thumped against the point, washing salty spray over my face, my grandfather began to speak. His words painted a picture of treasure, of survivors pitted against impossible odds, of deep tragedy, but above all, of an enduring mystery. That moment on the windswept shore has stayed with me ever since. For 30 years, the tale remained in my thoughts, fueling daydreams and school lessons as I replayed the scenes those desperate castaways endured. Over time, it transformed from a simple shipwreck story into something far more significant. It became a gateway to the past, a focal point where empire clashed with the primal need to survive, where documented history intertwined with the stories we, as Africans, choose to keep alive. Now, 3 decades later, I've resolved to recount this story much as my grandfather did, but enriched by research, by delving into archives, by listening to oral histories, and by giving voice to those long silenced. This is a story of betrayal and bravery, of desperation and endurance. It's a story of colonial frontiers and clashing cultures, of women and children abandoned, of diamonds lost and found, of a young Anglo-Indian boy whose suffering moved a nation, and of men who vanished into the wilderness, never to return. This season on More Than a Story, we follow the trail of the Grosvenor. Through the archives, into the veldt, and across time, we uncover what happened when the sea delivered a shipload of strangers into a land already at war with itself. This isn't just a shipwreck story, it's more than a story. And it begins not with the wreck itself, but with a chance discovery nearly a century and a half later. It is a gusty afternoon in the winter of 1927. An onshore wind sweeps in off the Indian Ocean, pushing up the mouth of the Kai River in South Africa's Eastern Cape province. Here, on the sandy riverbank, walks a solitary figure. His name is Johannes Bok, and for all his long years working the goldfields of Johannesburg, his only possession now is a worn leather hat that hides a face mottled by the African sun. Decades prior, he had journeyed from Germany to South Africa, but life has dealt him a string of misfortunes. Now, aged and weathered, he roams the veldt on a small piece of land he has leased, a drifter on Africa's frontier. He treads a faint cattle path alongside the river when suddenly a sharp pain shoots through his bare foot. He drops to one knee, his fingers digging into the sand. Slowly the dust settles, revealing a tiny stone, no larger than a grain of wheat, in his palm. He lifts it up to the light, turning it between his fingertips. Streams of light flash through the gem. His heart pounds as the truth dawns. Ripping a strip from his shirt, he carefully wraps his treasure. Then, consumed by a fever of hope, he falls to his knees, frantically searching the ground. As dusk descends, that small patch of sand yields an astonishing bounty. Over 1,000 glittering gems lie nestled in the palm of a stunned Johannes Bok. It is an unprecedented discovery. The following day, he races to the magistrate to register his claim. News of the find spreads like wildfire. Soon, mining companies, still flush with riches from the Kimberley diamond boom, descend upon the remote site. They comb the landscape, but no more gems are found. Frustration quickly turns into suspicion. The mining directors level a harsh accusation against Bok, salting the ground, they claim, planting the gems himself. Bok is dragged before a court, his pleas falling on deaf ears. The guilty verdict is swift. Within 2 months, tests reveal a startling truth. The diamonds are not of African origin, but Indian. Yet, this revelation comes too late. Johannes Bok, broken and feeling betrayed by fate, is sentenced to 3 years hard labor. The diamonds, thought to be his salvation, have become his curse. What seemed at first a chance find was, in fact, the dawn of an incredible historical revelation. These gems were more than mere minerals. They were tangible relics, fragments of a grander, more compelling story, one echoing the intricate heart of Africa itself. Ultimately, through meticulous research, scholars conceived a striking theory. Shipwreck survivors had deliberately buried these very diamonds. But the question remained, which ship, and under what circumstances? The Eastern Cape coastline was already a graveyard of ships. For centuries, the unforgiving currents and hidden reefs had claimed vessel after vessel, their stories often sinking into the deep with them. Since Bartholomew Dias, the first European to set foot on those shores in the late 15th century, hundreds, perhaps thousands of ships had met their end along this treacherous stretch of South Africa. Each wreck, a self-contained drama of survival and loss. These countless tales of castaways, once relegated to the dusty footnotes in maritime history, were now poised for a dramatic resurrection. Their long-forgotten struggles, their moments of bravery and despair, about to be brought back into the light, as scholars searched for the source of those very diamonds Johannes Bok had unearthed. After years of combing through maritime records and inventory, a tantalizing clue emerged. Aboard one ill-fated vessel, a wealthy passenger carried a very similar cache of diamonds. And his ship's ordeal? It might just be the most dramatic story of survival ever to unfold on Africa's shores. It is late July 1782. In the immense expanse of the Indian Ocean, a ship strains forward, its wooden frame groaning under the sheer weight of its cargo, far exceeding what it was built to carry. It is a lonely speck, a fragile mark against the endless blue. These vessels, grandly named East Indiaman, usually hug the coast on their 8-month journey between India and England. Staying closer to land offers a degree of safety, a chance to catch the reliable northeasterly winds. But on this occasion, this ship, the Grosvenor, takes a different course, deliberately veering away from the familiar route. The southwest winds, driven by Antarctic winter storms, have left her captain, John Coxon, little choice. He has made the calculated decision to steer them onto what seasoned mariners refer to as the outer passage, a route that cuts straight through the heart of the ocean, a bold move, often fraught with peril. Coxon is not thrilled about this plan. Years navigating these waters have instilled in him a deep respect for the Indian Ocean's unpredictable nature, especially during this season. Sailors whispered tales of sudden squalls and massive rogue waves that can appear out of nowhere, testing both the sturdiest ships and the most skilled crews. Yet, circumstances beyond his control have forced Coxon's hand. He had lingered too long in India, a consequence of the war with the French. This conflict, fueled by the American War of Independence across the Atlantic, had kept him busy for over a year, ferrying troops and supplies. It was a patriotic duty, perhaps, but one that offered none of the financial rewards he so keenly desired. Relentless ambition had propelled Coxon swiftly through the ranks of maritime commerce. He began his employment with the Honourable East India Company as a ship's purser, poring over ledgers of supplies and wages. Now, he commanded the Grosvenor. This was more than just a ship. It was the tangible result of his sharp mind, his hard work, and perhaps a well-timed seizing of opportunity. His rise to captain had been remarkably fast, and the Grosvenor, plying the profitable Indian Ocean trade routes, was meant to be his golden goose. Now, as the ship pushes forward, a single intense desire burns in his mind. To successfully complete this voyage, his last before he relinquishes command. His vision is clear: to return home to a comfortable retirement as a wealthy man, all before his 55th birthday. This voyage is not just a job, it is a final dash home to a life of ease. For William Jose, a passenger aboard the Grosvenor, the ceaseless rocking of the ship provides a temporary reprieve from the turmoil of his recent past. His departure from his governorship in Bengal had been a hurried, almost frantic affair, the weight of its undisclosed reasons a burden he alone carries. The ship's steady progress offers a deceptive sense of calm, a stark contrast to the rushed departure he'd initiated. But for Mary, his wife, the vast expanse of the ocean only amplifies her grief. Each swell seems to emphasize the growing distance between her and their infant daughter, barely 2 weeks old, left behind in India. The unknown month stretching before their family can be reunited hangs heavy between them, an unspoken sorrow as palpable as the salt spray on the deck. Their 2-year-old daughter, Frances, at least, is with them, along with their friend's 7-year-old son, Thomas. Frances points to the churning whitecaps, her innocent curiosity a small comfort. Her father smiles, adjusting his hat against the stiff breeze, hoping young Thomas is not too overcome with homesickness. The prospect of boarding school in England is a daunting one for a boy who already misses his mother so fiercely. Jose steps aside at the rail to allow a passing couple to move by. The Grosvenor carries 30 passengers, crammed onto a ship designed for no more than a dozen, a consequence of the captain's relentless pursuit of profit. Soldiers, merchants, even a few disgraced captains, all seeking passage back to England after their time in India. Whispers among them suggest that the captain is more concerned with the weight of his cargo, a staggering 38 tons, over the well-being of those aboard. Over 100 crew members navigate the ship. European sailors issue commands in a mix of Irish brogues, guttural Dutch, and lilting Italian, their voices blending with the lively cadence of the Indian lascars as they work the rigging. Alexander Logie, the chief mate, a seasoned Scotsman, oversees the activity, though a subtle tremor now runs through his hand as he grips the railing. His gaze, normally steady, flickers with an unsettling sheen, and a pale colour begins to creep beneath his weathered skin. Nearby stands Lydia, his new wife, her delicate features and striking red hair a vivid contrast against the endless browns and blues. A slight swell in her belly hints at new life within her, 4 months along. Jose's attention shifts to William Shaw, the second mate, as he guides his young apprentice, William Haberley. Their movements as they work the ship possess a practiced grace, a fluid efficiency born of countless hours at sea. Shaw offers instruction with a friendly nod, a simple gesture that suggests a bond extending beyond the typical hierarchy of shipmates. Haberley, barely out of his teens, handles the thick rope and heavy canvas with surprising confidence, a clear testament to Shaw's guidance, as the Grosvenor maintains its westward course. Jose retreats to his cabin, a space far smaller than the promises made for the substantial sum, the modern equivalent of over £300,000, he had paid the captain. Yet, a cramped cabin is a small price, he believes, for escaping whatever trials awaited him back in Bengal. As he watches the ship's wake disappear behind them, his thoughts return to his years in India. He had arrived a man of modest means. He sails now, a man of wealth and influence. The subcontinent has shaped him, tempering his reserved nature, forcing a change in his quiet character. But the hardships he has endured in India are but a gentle prelude to the unknown horrors that lie ahead. Lost in his reflections, his hand instinctively finds its way into his coat pocket. Within his grasp rests a small silk bag, its contents a closely guarded secret that catches the faint light. Tiny stones, a fortune hard won, lie in his palm, carrying the weight of his future.
We're incredibly grateful to have a sponsor for this season of More Than a Story, and not just any sponsor, but one deeply connected to the very tale we're telling. Lambazi Lodge is supporting the show this season, and we're genuinely thrilled to introduce them to you. Explore the untamed wild coast and come away with unforgettable memories of the warm hospitality, the beautiful surroundings, and the sense of peace that lingers long after you leave. Just a short walk from the tunnel where treasure hunters once searched for the Grosvenor's lost riches, Lambazi Lodge offers a front row seat to history. But it's more than a historical landmark. It's the perfect base for families, fishermen, hikers, and adventurers looking to explore the untamed beauty of the wild coast. To plan your own escape, visit lambazilodge.com and use the promo code MoreThanAStory10 to get 10% off your booking during designated dates.
Meanwhile, on South Africa's eastern frontier, a different kind of storm is gathering. Dust rises behind the slow progress of ox wagons, each creak and groan a testament to the long miles already traversed. The men walking alongside, hardened and armed, scan the seemingly endless horizon. This land feels different, unfamiliar compared to the Dutch settlements now receding in their memories. Their leader, a man named Van Jaarsveld, his jaw set with a grim determination, fixes his gaze on some distant, unseen point. He has heard the hushed whispers amongst the Khoi herders they occasionally encounter, a palpable apprehension, a tightness around their eyes that speaks of disrupted grazing lands, of a life source slowly being choked. Ahead, a cluster of hastily abandoned huts stands as silent evidence of a recent decree. Governor von Plettenberg's words echo in the minds of the settlers. The fertile Zuurveld, a promised land of sustenance for their growing numbers, must be emptied of its Amaxhosa inhabitants. Van Jaarsveld's men, a mix of Boers and Khoi, move with a grim efficiency. The urgent need for pasture for the expanding herds of cattle propels them forward, yet a subtle tension underlies their purpose. This eastward advance is not an isolated incident. It is part of a slow, relentless tide that began generations ago at a small refreshment post on Table Bay. That outpost swelled into the bustling Cape Town, a central point from which Dutch influence radiated outwards, touching and often disrupting the lives of the Khoi, the San, and the various Nguni and mixed clans. Now, it is the Amaxhosa who feel the full force of this expansion. Earlier interactions along this coast had been different, marked by a fragile balance. Ivory traded for European goods, animal skins bartered, a tentative coexistence now shattered by the increasing influx of settlers and their insatiable hunger for land. The trek Boers, their wagons laden with belongings and their firearms a constant presence, are an undeniable force moving into the Zuurveld, their way of life clashing sharply with established rhythms. The very earth beneath their feet holds a fundamentally different meaning for those being displaced. For the Amaxhosa, the land is a shared inheritance, its usage dictated by the needs of the community, deeply intertwined with the spirits of their ancestors. But the Dutch, with their surveyors and their documents, are marking out Leningsplaatses, loan farms with fixed, private boundaries, a concept alien and profoundly unjust to those who have moved freely across this landscape for centuries. This fundamental difference, imposed with little understanding, has created a deep chasm between them. Now, Governor von Plettenberg's latest pronouncement hangs heavy in the air. The Fish River, a line drawn on a map, will become the colony's new eastern border. All Amaxhosa are to move across it. This demarcation, a stark division of territory, feels like a point of no return. Van Jaarsveld's mandate, direct from the governor, leaves no room for negotiation. A message goes out to the Xhosa chief: 4 days to move his people beyond the designated Fish River boundary, or face the consequences. As this deadline looms, the Boers begin their eastward march. On the open veldt, an encounter unfolds. Several hundred Imidange, a subgroup of the Amaxhosa, gather, their expressions wary, their chief, Jalanga, at their head. Instead of confrontation, Van Jaarsveld signals for a meeting. His offer appears simple, almost benign: tobacco, a prized commodity. As the Imidange cautiously approach, drawn by the prospect of trade, Van Jaarsveld raises his hand. The ensuing volley of gunfire rips through the still air. Cries of pain echo across the veldt as over 100 Imidange fall, their chief Jalanga among the dead. The aftermath reveals Van Jaarsveld's true intent, exceeding even the governor's orders. Over 6,000 head of Imidange cattle are rounded up, a tangible reward distributed amongst his men. This brutal act becomes another tightening knot in the escalating frontier conflict, a struggle that will shape this land for generations. The Amaxhosa, already deeply suspicious of the encroaching settlers and their disregard for tradition, now harbour a profound and bitter distrust. Unseen, unheard by either side in this unfolding drama, a ship continues its fateful journey towards this very coast, carrying unsuspecting souls whose arrival will further ignite this already volatile landscape. Their vulnerability, a stark contrast to the armed men who have just spilt blood on this land. It is August the 3rd, 1782. A heavy darkness blankets the Indian Ocean, a blackness that speaks of a brutal dawn to come. Propelled by a steady easterly wind, the Grosvenor cuts through the waves, her sails straining. 51 days have passed since the frustrating delays in India, and they are nearing the Cape, the southern tip of Africa. Even the relatively inexperienced Captain Coxswain knows these waters hold hidden teeth. Below deck, the weekly grog ration offers a brief respite. The men raise their mugs, the cheap rum a temporary comfort against the relentless rocking and creaking, a silent toast to the families they have not seen in months. But as the crew below seeks fleeting comfort in their grog, a disquieting shift occurs above. The wind, moments before a steady companion, now begins to fret. Second mate William Shaw and his apprentice, William Haberley, find themselves wrestling with the stubborn canvas of the topsails, the increasing pressure a tangible warning in their hands. Then, a little after midnight, a moment of unease cuts through the darkness. A faint, hazy yellow light flickers into existence on the western horizon. It's a fleeting glimpse, piercing the dense fog for a mere instant before vanishing as quickly as it appeared. A murmur ripples through the watch. Land, according to their calculations, should be weeks away. Celestial phenomena? The possibilities are whispered among the seasoned crew, but in the pit of Haberley's stomach, a cold knot of dread begins to tighten, an instinctive recognition that something is profoundly wrong. Shaw shares this unease, and the men lower the topsails. Yet, when they rouse Captain Coxswain, his eyes still thick with sleep, he dismisses their concerns with a flick of his hand. He turns back to his bunk, confident in his ignorance. The night offers no moon, the sea a slick, black expanse that presents no argument. At 4 a.m., the watch changes. Shaw relays the sighting to third mate Thomas Beale, but Beale simply shrugs, his indifference echoing the captain's. Less than an hour later, young Tom Lewis, Beale's apprentice, his voice cracking with fear, the word rips from his throat. Land. The familiar rhythm of the ship shatters. The quartermaster's face, pale and contorted, vanishes below to drag the captain from his slumber. Coxswain's startled roar to turn the ship is lost in the rising fury of the wind and the sudden crash of waves. Emerging from the impenetrable fog, a massive dark shape looms directly ahead. The Grosvenor, heavy with her precious cargo and carrying 140 souls, slams violently onto unseen rocks. The impact is instant, brutal. Men scream as they are thrown across the rain-slicked deck, their cries swallowed by the shriek of the storm and the sharp splintering of wood. Towering waves, unleashed by the tempest, hammer the hull, sending icy torrents crashing over the terrified sailors. Amid the chaos, William Jose's eyes meet those of his wife. In Mary's wide, terrified gaze, he sees his own death reflected. In that shared, horrifying instant, a cold certainty cuts through the storm's fury. They are doomed. This coast, this graveyard of ships, has claimed them. Join us next week as we plunge back into the maelstrom of the wreck. The fate of the Grosvenor will teeter on the edge as her people struggle for the shore. But make no mistake, reaching land will be no salvation. Instead, these survivors will find themselves adrift in a world utterly unknown to them, delivered into the hands of a people themselves under the strain of colonial incursion. For them, survival of the wreck will not mark an end, but the brutal commencement of their true trial. That's next week on More Than a Story. If you would like to get in touch or support the show, please visit our website, morethan-a-story.co.za. There you can find additional media on this tale, as well as others that have shaped our complex continent. If you have a story yourself that you would like to put forward for the show, please get in touch. Another thanks to Lambazi Lodge for supporting this season. Please see a link to their website in the show notes. Thanks also to Active Escapes for improving the show's reach. If you're looking to experience the wonders of walking trails throughout South Africa, please see a link to their website in the show notes or on our website. The diverse and enchanting stories of Africa hold immense power, acting as vital threads in the tapestry of continental understanding and unity. By unpacking these tales, we gain profound insights into the shared human experiences and unique identities, ultimately contributing to a more cohesive and unified Africa.